Hi, Democrats. Today is Thursday, September 14th, and it's time for the Chair's Daily Live. Happy Thursday. So yesterday I gave you a really rushed rendition of, there's going to be a sneak peek. We're going to talk about convention, the DNC convention that's going to be held next August of 2024 in Chicago. I want to gather my thoughts and come back with really big information. So don't think that because I'm not talking about it today that we're done talking about it. There's just a lot that needs to go into it. Today, I want to talk about a topic that keeps coming up as I'm out going to meetings and talking to future candidates or potential candidates or people who I think should run. And this was actually covered in the news today. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to talk about this. There's this little chatter under the surface. I guess it's over the surface now because it was in the paper. There's this chatter that Oklahoma might need open primaries, or Oklahoma might need ranked choice voting. And I'm not opposed to either of those ideas in theory, right? I'm not opposed to either of those ideas in theory. However, the frustration and the reason that people are talking about these in our state is because they're frustrated with who our elected officials are in our state. They're frustrated with the bills that come out and the laws that come out of our state legislature. And so they're looking for reasons and they're looking for ways to fix it. And folks are saying, the way that we can fix it is if we banned open primaries. Well, let me tell you something. Since 2015, the Oklahoma Democratic Party has opened our primaries, and we allow unaffiliated voters to vote in our primaries. That's already happening. That's been going on since 2015, or 2016. So that's not it, right? And the next is we need ranked choice voting. And both of these ideas are born out of the belief that most voters are somewhere in the middle, right? That the Republicans aren't way out here to the right. They're somewhere like here. And the Democrats aren't way over to the left. They're somewhere right here. Well, in the state of Oklahoma, we don't have a whole lot of super left Democrats in our voting practices. We don't. And so I think that's kind of a false argument, but let's just keep going. So the thought process is that this is where most voters are. But the reason why we end up with the extremes on the right, because that's what we end up with, is because they only have to talk to the folks on the right. But if we had open, because that's all who can vote for them. But if we had open primaries, maybe they would talk more to the middle. And the premise behind that is that people, if they are given a choice for sane politics, that they will pick sane politics. Oh my gosh, if only that were true. If only that were true. I think that the jury is in, and that the majority of Oklahomans believe that a mistake was made when the superintendent of public instruction got elected. Our current superintendent of public instruction, whose name I won't say, got elected. I believe, based on polling and based on, what I hear when I go out in public, what I read on social media, and who I encounter and the calls that I get, folks kind of really agree that that was a bad choice. Here's the thing. Republicans had choices. There were 4 candidates for superintendent of public instruction. 4. Only one was doing outlandish, super, ultra MAGA talking points. Only one of them was doing that. And that's the one they voted for. That's who they voted for. So they had middle of the road. They had choices for middle of the road, and they voted for the most extreme. They voted for the guy who said that he believed in President Trump and he was going to keep MAGA, blah, blah, blah. That's who they voted for. For governor, they had a former Republican who they had voted for twice, and so they knew what her politics kind of were. And then they had a guy who was an unabashed Trump fan. Which one did they vote for? The unabashed Trump fan. And so open primaries, I understand the thinking behind it. Ranked choice voting, I understand the thinking behind it. But until Oklahoma gets its act together and we raise voter turnout, we've raised voter participation, voter education, that's not going to fix it. And so going out here and fixing this external thing is not what's going to change it. What we have to do is reach out to the hearts and minds of registered voters in the state. And I say that when I say we, I don't mean just Democrats, but of course, I hope we do it better. But we have to reach out to voters and say, you got to vote every time. In Oklahoma, in our big elections, we vote on a rate of about 30%. And when I say we, I'm talking about all Oklahomans. It's not that Democrats don't show up. It's that Democrats don't show up and neither do Republicans. That's what we have. And that's how we end up with the kooks that we elect. That's how we end up with that plus partisan redistricting or gerrymandering. That's how we end up with a majority who forgets that they're supposed to be passing laws that affect us on a day-to-day basis and not laws based on what they're doing in other states. Because they don't think they have to talk to us. Because they know that if neither side does a whole lot of work, that we can easily predict what the outcome of an election is. But that's why you see candidates knocking doors on our side of the fence. That's why you're getting calls from candidates and you keep seeing pop-ups, is because Democratic candidates know, if they've talked to me, if they talk to Leader Floyd or Leader Munson, they know that they're going to have to work really hard at it. That's what we have to do to change hearts and minds, is we have to talk to people about what is important to them. Changing the process may change something. But right now, in other states, it'll have a bigger impact because they have more voter participation. What we have to do in Oklahoma is we have to improve voter participation. I stole this from Kendra Horn. I like to give credit, but it's real clear. There are approximately 4 million people, just under 4 million people, who live in the state of Oklahoma. About 3 million of them are eligible to vote, and that means they're over the age of 18 and they're not incarcerated or adjudicated mentally incapacitated, right? So that's 4 million, 3 that are eligible to vote, and about 2 million that are actually registered to vote. And on any given election, less than 1 million actually shows up to vote. That is what happens in the state of Oklahoma. There are elections all over this state that are decided on less than 1,500 votes. There is no district that is small enough that that's a reasonable, respectable amount of participation. There are elections, consequential elections, that are being determined on less than 1,500 votes. There are some elections, consequential elections, that are determined, that have been determined on less than 1,000 votes. And so really, 500 dedicated people in a district get to decide what happens in that district. And I assure you, the kooks, the people with the 9 signs in their yard and the flags and the Facebook Lives, those are the people who vote. Those are the people who vote. And so me, I'm a zealot. I care about the candidates that I care about. And when we're in the throes of election season and GOTV, I have a bunch of signs in my yard, but I vote every time there's an opportunity for me to vote. But the folks who are driving around with several flags in the back of their trucks, and they have 19 different signs talking about the former guy, they also vote. We have to combat that. More folks on our side of the aisle need to vote. And as a Democrat, what helps me get up every day is I know that if we show up at a rate better than they show up, we have a chance to flip a seat that's drawn for us not to win. And as a Democrat who's been out talking to candidates and talking to county parties, I know that this is the year that folks are ready to do it. I know that there are counties and districts that are already out knocking doors just to get to know their neighbors. It's not an election that's happening right now that's getting them out there. It's just to get to know their neighbors, because that's what we have to do in order to turn the tide. It is crazy and it is dire, but it is easy to fix. And that's the good news. It's not hopeless. It's not at a point where it'll be 100 years before we can fix it. All we have to do is show up in numbers greater than they expect. If 50% of registered Democrats showed up in their district, we could flip a seat. It's that easy. Talk to your neighbors and make sure they get there. Help them make a plan. And now, while people aren't thinking about the election, now is the perfect time to start having those conversations. Hey, buddy, do you vote? Do you know where we vote? Okay. Do you vote in person? Do you vote absentee ballot? Is your voter registration even up to date? Those are the conversations you need to be having right now while there's not an election and people aren't thinking about it. Get folks to sign up for absentee ballots so that they get a ballot mailed to their house that reminds them when the election is. Because not everybody is on top of it like I am, or the folks who watch me. But if it gets mailed to their house, there's a very good chance that they'll show that they will actually cast that vote either by filling out the paperwork and mailing it in or going because they have the information sitting at their house and they can do research. Now is the time that we have to meet our neighbors. We have to help folks make a plan. We have to make a plan ourselves. Now is the time to be meeting candidates while they're brand new. While they're brand new and they're still excited, they'll talk to anybody. We need to get them talking to your neighbors. We need to make sure that everybody knows what's going on. Waiting until June, August, and November is a little bit too late. We need to be having those conversations now. So, not talking about current events today, except I'm talking about what's on my mind. And what's on my mind is voter education, registration, and participation. That's what we have to do. We have to register folks, educate them, and help them participate. So if you're looking for something to do and you're not ready to donate money, although if you know a candidate, I assure you they are ready for you to donate. But if you're not ready to donate money, you can devote your time and your talent into educating voters on how they can look up their districts, Oklahoma State Election Board voter portal, how they know who their elected officials are, how they know who is running for what offices. So right now is the time to start educating people on this so that when it comes around, you don't hear, oh, I forgot, I don't have time. They can get in on the ground level and learn who's going to be on their ballot. So reach out to your county party. You can go out to our website, okdemocrats.org/find my party. Well, my party, find my party. And send an email directly to your county party chair. They'll get back to you, join a meeting, and let's reach out to some voters and get and increase voter participation. All righty. Thanks so very much for joining me. And I'll be back here tomorrow from Stillwater at 4:15.